Founding Fathers created the U.S. Constitution, they were not starting from scratch. Now, they were revolutionaries, but not everything was revolutionary. They were also heirs to centuries of English law. And among the legal thinkers who influenced them the most, few were more important than William Blackstone. In fact, if you wanted to understand law in the 18th century, there was one set of books everyone must read: Blackstone's commentaries on the laws of England. The question is, how much of America came from Blackstone? So who was William Blackstone? Blackstone was an English lawyer, a judge, and a scholar who lived during the 18th century. His greatest achievement was publishing a 4-volume work known as the Commentaries on the Laws of England. The books explained English law in a way that ordinary educated readers could understand. And they became enormously popular throughout the English-speaking world. So when American colonists wanted to understand their own legal rights, chances are they were reading Blackstone. After independence, Americans faced a challenge. How do you build a national government from the ground up? Now, the founders certainly developed their own ideas, but they also borrowed heavily from English legal traditions. According to historians, members of the Constitutional Convention frequently looked to Blackstone when designing parts of the new government. And in some cases, they adapted powers that Blackstone had described as belonging to the British king and redistributed them amongst the American offices and institutions. The result was not a copy of Great Britain, but it was a republic built partly from familiar English legal building blocks. One of Blackstone's most important contributions involved the relationship between the legislature and the executive. In England, that would be Parliament and the King. In the United States, that is Congress and the President. Blackstone emphasized that liberty depended upon limiting concentrated power. In England, for example, Parliament served as an important check on the monarch's excesses. And that idea resonated deeply with the American founders. But Americans took it even further. Instead of making the legislature supreme, they created 3 co-equal branches of government: legislative, executive, and judicial. As James Madison famously expressed in Federalist Papers number 51, each branch needed a will of its own. The goal was simple: prevent any one part of government from becoming too powerful. Each branch acted as a foil to the other's excesses. Blackstone wasn't merely interested in legal procedures. He also believed that law rested upon a deeper foundation: natural law. Blackstone argued that human laws ultimately derive their legitimacy from a higher moral order established by God. In his view, laws that violate fundamental principles of justice lose their legitimacy. This idea had a profound influence on Anglo-American political thought. It reinforced the belief that government is accountable to moral standards beyond mere political power. One of the more interesting aspects of Blackstone's legacy concerns religion. Blackstone remained committed to the Church of England, but he lived during a period when religious diversity was becoming increasingly common. There existed different Protestant denominations, and more were coming. There was the emergence of deism, and there was growing debate about religious freedom. While Blackstone never advocated for modern religious pluralism in the way Americans would later understand it, his natural law framework helped create intellectual space for broader toleration. If all people possess dignity under God's law, then governments must exercise caution before coercing religious belief. Decades later, French political observer Alexis de Tocqueville noticed something important about Americans. Although they had broken from Great Britain, they had not severed themselves from their past. Tocqueville argued that no people can completely detach themselves from their history. Americans remain deeply influenced by English customs, English traditions, and legal ideas. Blackstone was a part of that inheritance. The Constitution itself may have been uniquely American, but many of the assumptions that underlied it were unmistakably English. Today, most Americans outside of law schools have never read Blackstone, yet his influence remains all around us. Whenever we talk about checks and balances, the rule of law, natural rights, separation of powers, religious liberty, we're often discussing ideas that Blackstone himself transmitted from English law into American political culture. William Blackstone did not write the Constitution. He did not fight in the Revolutionary War, and he never became an American citizen. But few individuals contributed more to the legal language and assumptions that shaped the early United States. The founders built something new, but they built it using the tools they inherited from their past. And among these tools, Blackstone's commentaries may have been one of the most important. So here's the question for this week. Could the American Revolution have succeeded without rejecting British rule while simultaneously preserving so much of Britain's legal tradition? Let me know in the comments, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.